I think progressive overload, essentially the concept of it, it's an absolutely necessary, and it's a naturally occurring concept. Like, it's all about efficiency. What's the minimum amount of work you have to do to create the adaptation response, the growth of the muscle cell, the increase of the size of the muscle cell? And also too, progressive overload, the funny thing about it is you're training for muscle mass through strength increase. You're not training for strength. Like, I know you essentially are, you're writing your number in your notebook, but that's not the end goal. The end goal is to get the muscle to grow, because it's forced to grow, because its cross-sectional area cannot generate any more power. It has to adapt and get bigger. And the cross-sectional area increases eventually, you know? And so that's the goal, but yet you're training for strength. It's sort of like, and it's an interesting thing. You know, you're trying to get the side effect is essentially what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think it just comes from efficiency. You know, like, you take 100,000 people and you put them on, you know, 4 sets of 8, 4 exercises per body part, you know, the typical like generic Flex magazine workout. How many good bodybuilders do you get out of, if you put 100,000 people on that workout and you just let them do it for 10 years, the typical average Joe Blow volume stuff that most people do? How many good bodybuilders do you get?
20.
You take, 20, right?
Yeah.
You take 100,000 people, you put them all on progressive resistance, where they're tracking and logging everything, not worried about volume, worried about performance in the gym and execution of every rep and all that, the progressive overload principles. And you let them do that for 10 years. How many good bodybuilders do you get? Is it more than 20?
Somewhere.
Right? It still might only be 30.
But it's more.
But that just shows you how hard bodybuilding is.
That's it. Well, yeah. And when you say that, I'm thinking like, how many Phil Heaths come out of that 100,000?
Right.
So just for people that are thinking about this, like, you're not talking, you know, somebody that we're not talking average. How many of the professionals do you get out of 100,000?
Yeah. You know, it's like putting on extraordinary amounts of muscle mass is really fucking hard. We talk as if it's something that we can just do. And it's not. Like, some people can't do it. Like, they can, but you know what I mean? They just can't accumulate any sort of enough muscle tissue to be a bodybuilder.
Right.
So, I mean, everyone can gain an enormous amount of muscle. I think everyone can double the amount of muscle on their body.
I'd be willing to go with that, because I've had some what I would call as a hard gainer, you know, that are like naturally their frame sits at, like, as a male, even like around 100 pounds,
right?
120, somewhere in that range. Yeah, I think, well, I mean, yeah, you can probably be easily double that, or at least 300% stronger. I think strength's easier than muscle size.
Yes. So when I say double the amount of muscle, I guess your lean body mass would be a bit much, because that would include more. I'm just thinking, like, you know, think of how big the average 150-pound dude's bicep is. Yeah. I mean, he can easily double the size of his bicep.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? That's the actual muscle. Like, you just put it on a scale like a chicken breast, he could easily, in like 10 years, he could easily double it, like, if he does his thing. But that's still not enough for him to even look impressive. Most people, if they double their muscle mass, they just look like they work out now.
Right.
You know, like, bubbly bodybuilders. It's not something you just make with training. There's like so many other things that have to be in place. But I still think that progressive overload will find more of them than just generic bro training, you know, typical volume stuff. I also too, maybe it's because when you train with progressive overload, it leads you down other paths.
Yes.
Looking for efficiency and maximization of intensity and all these concepts that then lead to like better, like, you know what I mean? It all adds up. It's not like it's just the solution.
Yeah.